It's been a long time since we've done an aliens video. A lot of people are surprised that in our modern age, scientists don't know of any confirmed alien life. And even if we do, NASA sure doesn't want us to know about it. Well, I'm here to tell you there is more out there than you can imagine. And today, I'm going to show you just a little bit of it. Welcome back, everyone. It's me, and you're watching this channel. Join me as we explore the most remote galaxies and the smallest particles of our universe, seeking to find the most fascinating questions science can answer. Today, let's take a look at some truly terrifying alien species. The Silents. In the silent heart of the galaxy, millennia before the rise of the Krill or the slumber of the Leviathans, entire civilizations trembled at the thought of war. For centuries, empires rose and fell. Fleets clashed and alliances shattered under the weight of ambition. But then, from the cold void between the stars, came a species so inconsequential that no empire bothered recording their names, a footnote in the chronicles of a forgotten age. They were small, fragile compared to the armored titans of the cosmos. Their ships were crude, their biology unremarkable, their history full of conflict. The galaxy had seen them come and go, a fleeting glimpse of a minor species eking out a precarious existence on the fringes of known space. To all outward appearances, they were nothing special, nothing unique. Or were they? For when their brief moment in the galactic spotlight ended, leaving only rumors and legends in their wake, the galaxy thought it understood them. They thought these insignificant species would play by the same rules of restraint, honor, and calculated destruction. What the galaxy called terror, they called madness. What they called overkill, the name was lost to the endless march of time. But their deeds, their sacrifices, and their acts of unimaginable cruelty echoed through the ages. Those who heard the tales of the horrors committed by the nameless species passed them down in hushed whispers, a cautionary tale to ensure such horrors never repeated themselves. But, like all legends, the truth lay buried beneath layers of fear and exaggeration. What if I told you that the galaxy remembered them wrong? That the species it labeled as mad was actually calculating, precise, and ruthless? They didn't leave the galaxy by accident. They were kicked out. They were betrayed by the one species that should have protected them above all others. Humans left their home planet with a thirst for exploration and conquest, ready to carve their destiny among the stars. Their goal was clear: become the dominant species in the galaxy, even if it meant causing chaos and destruction along the way. But the path to galactic domination was fraught with challenges. Among them were the Silents, a peaceful species whose home planet was rich in resources that humanity desperately needed. But instead of diplomacy or respect, humanity chose deceit and annihilation. Humanity offered the Silents a false alliance, pretending to be their protectors while secretly planning their demise. When the time was right, they struck, killing every Silent they could find and harvesting their home planet's resources. But humanity wasn't satisfied with just the silent home world. They ventured further into silent space, annihilating entire systems without remorse. Only one planet remained, harboring the last remnants of the silent civilization. Humanity laid siege to it, determined to wipe out the remaining Silents once and for all. But the Silents had a final surprise in store for their attackers. Before their extinction, they activated a powerful artifact that ripped apart the fabric of space-time, creating a wormhole that led to an unknown location. As the Silents disappeared into the swirling vortex of the wormhole, humanity stood victorious but short-lived. The artifact's energy surge overloaded their ships, leaving them stranded and vulnerable. Now, cut off from their fleet and with their communications disabled, humanity faced the consequences of their actions. The galaxy was plunged into darkness as the artifacts devoured their technology, leaving them at the mercy of whatever awaited them beyond the wormhole. The Krill. In the tapestry of galactic conflicts, few sagas rival the epic struggle between humanity and the Krill. Born from the depths of a dying red giant, The krill are an insectoid species that exist as a single hive mind with the sole purpose of devouring and assimilating other species. Imagine a horrifying mix of termites and killer bees, except instead of honeycombs, they build massive hives on the surface of planets, cocooning themselves in protective shells made of chitinous armor. As the krill grew in number, so did their hunger, consuming everything in their path. Their expansion threatened the delicate balance of the galaxy, posing a dire threat to countless species, including humanity. Humanity watched in horror as the krill advanced, their vast numbers and relentless hunger a terrifying sight to behold. Entire star systems were devoured, consumed by the insatiable appetite of the hive mind. Faced with this impending doom, humanity knew it needed to act fast. They assembled a ragtag fleet of scavenged ships and makeshift weapons, determined to confront the krill and stop their advance. The battle that ensued was one for the ages, a desperate struggle between two vastly different species. The krill attacked in overwhelming numbers, their exoskeletal warriors armed with razor-sharp mandibles and stingers that could pierce the toughest shields. Humanity, outnumbered and outgunned, fought with the ferocity of cornered prey, their scavenged weapons blazing as they desperately tried to hold back the tide of chitinous invaders. Yet, despite the krill's overwhelming strength, humanity refused to back down. They fought with every weapon at their disposal, inflicting heavy casualties on the enemy and slowing their advance. But the true turning point came when humanity discovered a weakness in the krill's seemingly impenetrable armor. Using experimental weapons, they found a way to penetrate the crystalline shell, shattering the hive mind's control and sending the krill into chaos. Seizing the opportunity, humanity unleashed a devastating attack that decimated the krill fleet, scattering the survivors across the galaxy. Despite their victory, humanity knew that the battle was far from over. The krill would regroup and return with vengeance. So humanity prepared itself for a long and arduous war, determined to protect the galaxy from the insatiable hunger of the hive mind. The Leviathans. Imagine a creature so vast it dwarfs even the largest starships, capable of consuming entire solar systems with its colossal maw. This is the Leviathan, a being of pure nightmare that exists beyond the boundaries of human comprehension. Its scales shimmer with an otherworldly glow, hiding its true size and making it invisible to most space telescopes. With teeth as sharp as asteroids and a mouth that could swallow light itself, the Leviathan is a predator that knows no equal. Their immense size allows them to travel throughout the universe, driven by an insatiable hunger that consumes everything in its path. Stars, planets, entire solar systems, nothing is safe from the Leviathan's voracious appetite. Even the most advanced civilizations tremble at the mere whisper of its name, knowing that once the Leviathan sets its sights on a world, there is no hope of escape. Some say the Leviathans were born from the ashes of dead galaxies, their colossal forms emerging from the debris of shattered worlds. Others claim they have existed since the dawn of creation, their origins lost to the mists of time. But one thing is certain: the Leviathans are a force of pure destruction, a harbinger of death that heralds the end of entire civilizations. Their presence is heralded by the sudden disappearance of stars, as if snuffed out like candles in the wind. Planets vanish without a trace, swallowed whole by the Leviathan's colossal maw. Entire solar systems are consumed, leaving behind a gaping void where once stars shone brightly in the darkness of space. The Leviathans are driven by an ancient and primal hunger, a relentless drive to consume and destroy that knows no bounds. They are the ultimate predators, the apex of the food chain, and they rule the universe with an iron fist. Yet, despite their overwhelming power, the Leviathans are not invincible, for within their colossal forms lies a terrible weakness, a vulnerability that could spell their doom. The key to defeating the Leviathans lies in understanding their strange and terrifying psychology. These enigmatic creatures are governed by a series of bizarre rituals and taboos that, if understood, could lead to their downfall. For the Leviathans are not just mindless killing machines, they are highly intelligent beings, with a complex social structure and a deep-rooted culture. They have their own language, their own customs, and their own laws, and they will stop at nothing to protect them. Defeating the Leviathans will require more than brute force. It will require cunning, intelligence, and a willingness to delve into the darkest depths of the unknown. The fate of the galaxy hangs in the balance, and only those brave enough to face the Leviathans and unravel their terrifying secrets stand a chance of prevailing. And now it's time for you to make your voice heard. Which of these terrifying species would you love to see in a future Sci-Fi movie? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're at it, don't forget to like this video. And subscribe for more interstellar adventures. Your support means the world to me and helps bring more amazing science content to the universe. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the cosmos. Keep looking up and never stop exploring because the universe is full of wonders beyond our wildest dreams. Let me tell you a story about the day the aliens came. Oh, you know the story? No, you don't. Well, then let me tell you. When humans finally sent a representative to the Galactic Council, they arrived quietly. No soaring music, no fireworks, no laser light shows. Just a single human ambassador stepping out of a small shuttle and walking politely to the council chamber. Inside, 1,000 alien delegates from hundreds of worlds sat in stunned silence. Some were huge, towering over the humans. Others were small, barely a foot tall. There were beings made of pure energy and others who looked like living chunks of metal. Many had more appendages than 2 arms and 2 legs. Some had skin like sandpaper, others smelled like perfume. But all of them had one thing in common. They had all piloted their ships to the very edge of the solar system, just to have a look at the upstarts who had dared to send a message to the Galactic Council demanding to be let in. And they had come prepared to blow the insolent humans to atoms if they resisted. But when the humans arrived, they did so with no fanfare. No towering guards, no intimidation, no threat. Just a lone ambassador striding confidently towards the council. The aliens whispered among themselves. "These creatures destroyed 1,000 ships," one said in a voice like grinding gears. "And they look so puny, so ordinary," said another whose skin was the color of a nebula. The ambassador straightened his clothes, which were rumpled from hypersleep. He had been awake for weeks already, traveling the galaxy to find galactic civilization worthy of his species. He cleared his throat and said, "We do not seek war, but if war comes to us, we end it quickly." The chamber fell silent. One by one, the 1,000 pairs of eyes blinked at him slowly. The ambassador didn't flinch. He knew what these creatures were capable of. He knew that they had the power to obliterate his species before he could utter another word. But he also knew that they craved order and peace as much as any other species. And most importantly, he knew that they would value strength above all else. To the humans, this was simple logic. To the galaxy, it was pure horror. Here was a species that not only didn't fear them, it didn't even respect them. To the aliens, their power was legendary. Whole star systems trembled before their fleets. Planets were vaporized as if they were made of cobwebs. Entire galaxies cowered before them. And yet, here was this tiny, insignificant species daring to threaten them. It was unthinkable. It was unbelievable. The ambassador continued, "You wish to know our strength? We are not like you. Our strength is not measured in ships or armies or weapons. It is measured in ideas, in the will to survive, to grow, to become more. You can destroy our ships, but we will build more. You can kill our people, but we will find a way to live on. You can even destroy our planet, but we will endure. For every one of us that dies, 10 more will take our place. We are a virus. We are a cancer. We are the ultimate predator. We are humans." The room remained silent for a long moment. Then slowly, very slowly, the aliens began to stir. Some of them hissed, others snarled, and a few simply walked out, shaking their heads in disbelief. The ambassador watched them go. He knew that they would tell the others, and those others would tell many more. And eventually, the entire galaxy would know that the humans were not like any other species they had ever encountered. As the last of the aliens filed out of the room, the ambassador turned and walked out into the corridor. His work here was done. The humans would not be joining the Galactic Council today, or tomorrow, or perhaps for many years to come. But when they did, they would be equals. Not servants, not subjects, but equals. Because the humans had something the galaxy desperately needed, something the aliens could never hope to understand, something that had taken eons to develop. It was not strength, nor cunning, nor power. It was curiosity. The aliens had advanced beyond the need to explore. They had become complacent, satisfied with what they had found. The humans, though, were just getting started. They would explore every inch of the galaxy not to conquer, not to plunder, but simply to understand. And in doing so, they would find wonders that the aliens had missed, new technologies, new life forms, new worlds. And in the end, they would bring all of that back to their own world, making it better, richer, stronger. In short, they would do what the aliens had failed to do, which was to make the galaxy a better place. Hey, that was cool. Let me tell you another story about the day the aliens came. Oh, you know the story? No, you don't. Well, then let me tell you. You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. You gotta spend money to make money. If you don't go big, you'll never succeed. We've all heard sayings like these, phrases that encourage us to take bold risks in pursuit of greater rewards. But is there such a thing as too big? Too bold? What happens when we swing so hard for the fences that we hit the bleachers? Today, we explore the story of the time humanity went overkill. The year is 2547. For 200 years, humanity has been taking its first tentative steps into the stars, building colonies on distant worlds and gathering resources to fuel further expansion. It's been a slow process, but humanity is undeterred. That is until the discovery of the Zarkath swarm. The Zarkath are an insectoid species native to the planet Scar. Their homeworld sits in the Gliese 581 star system, a red dwarf about 20 light-years from our own. The Gliese system was the first extrasolar system ever discovered back in 1996. And now, several hundred years later, it is the first alien species found outside of our solar system. They come from a planet very similar to Earth, which allowed them to evolve along a similar path, developing technology that mirrors our own. But their resemblance to us ends there. While we build spaceships, they craft hive ships. While we establish colonies, they found hives. The Zarkath are a hive mind species connected by a single consciousness. Their bodies are perfectly suited for life in space. They have no need for bulky spacesuits because their exoskeletons provide full protection from radiation and micrometeorites. And because they have no mouths or digestive systems, they need carry neither food nor water, subsisting only on energy siphoned from the hive mind. This allows the Zarkath to travel quickly and in large numbers, but nowhere near as large as numbers as their hive army. The Zarkath are a remarkably prolific species, populating their entire home system with hives and preparing to move on to new systems. At first, they sent out scouting missions, small fleets to find suitable planets for new hives. But soon, those small fleets became larger and larger. First, the size of a moon, then the size of a planet, then multiple planets. Soon, millions upon millions of Zargoth warships were pouring out of the Gliese system and converging on humanity's most valuable colony, Taurus. Located in the Alpha Centauri star system, 4 light-years from Earth, Taurus was humanity's largest manufacturing center, boasting over 10 trillion people and producing everything from consumer goods to starship components. Because of its value, Taurus was heavily fortified with automated turrets and defense drones. But those defenses were built to repel pirate raids, not an invasion by a hive fleet. The Zarkath swarm was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Their ships were perfectly hexagonal, composed of chitinous armor plating and armed with plasma cannons that tore through steel as easily as it cut through butter. Even worse, they came with a biological weapon. Unlike their insect cousins, the Zarkoth didn't attack with stingers or venom. They attacked with spores. A single inhalation was enough to turn a human into a Zergath thrall, after which the victim would be executed swiftly and humanely by the Zergath, soldiers to prevent the spread of infection. As the Zarkoth neared the planet, the human defenders knew it was only a matter of time until their reinforcements arrived. With the fate of humanity hanging in the balance, the colonists of Tyros prepared to make their stand. But they had no way of knowing that the galaxy itself was about to change forever. From humanity's perspective, the battle for Tyros was going badly. Their automated defenses were easily overwhelmed by sheer numbers. The Zarkoth spores were drifting toward their atmosphere. Soon, the ground beneath their feet would be crawling with the enemy. They needed help, and fast, but what they got wasn't reinforcements. It was a funeral fleet. Thousands upon thousands of cargo drones filled every inch of the sky. Each one carried enough firepower to wipe out the entire Zargoth fleet. The Zargoth looked up in astonishment. Why were the humans sending more ships to their doom? They had already lost countless billions. What possible victory could they hope to achieve with more of the same? As if to answer their question, the human drones opened fire. At first, the fusillade seemed random and uncoordinated, just another useless sacrifice. But as the seconds ticked by, the Zarkoth began to notice a pattern. Every salvo was perfectly placed, every explosion precisely timed. They were under attack from every direction at once. The Zarkoth fleet, which had been advancing in perfect formation, fell into disarray. Their ranks were broken, their shields were failing, and, worst of all, their communications were jammed. One by one, the Zarkoth ships exploded, their bio-armor melting away to reveal the sleek silver warheads hidden inside. The sight was spectacular, beautiful even, as hundreds of thousands of ships detonated in a cascade of bright light and searing heat. But the Zarkoth did not appreciate the fireworks. They watched in disbelief as their fleet was annihilated, as their colonies were vaporized, as their hive queen was silenced forever. Only a few lucky ships managed to escape and flee back to Scar. When they told their queen what had happened, she did not believe them. No single planet could muster that much firepower. There must have been millions of ships in the human fleet, perhaps even billions. But how could a single planet produce so many? How could a single planet launch a retaliatory strike powerful enough to wipe out the entire Zergath swarm? The answer to her question would arrive soon enough. Humanity would send a single ship to Scar, a lone vessel carrying 24 Marines. They would board the Zergath Queen's flagship and walk through the corridors of her ship as she fled for her life. And when they finally stood before her, the answer to her question would be delivered in person. He was tall and muscular, his face obscured by a black combat helmet. His voice boomed through the ship's intercom, startling the terrified queen. "In the name of the United Nations, I am here to deliver your final warning. Cease your attacks on humanity and leave our solar system, or face total annihilation." The Queen's response was immediate. She unleashed a volley of high-powered bolts, tearing through the ship's hull and killing everyone on board, except one. The Marine survived the blast, his suit scorched but still operational. His voice echoed through the ship's speakers once more, colder now, devoid of any warmth. "You chose poorly." Then he pressed a button on his suit. Seconds later, the flagship exploded, destroying the entire Hive fleet with it. Back on Earth, humanity's leaders were making a decision that would shock the galaxy. They were going to respond to the Zarkoth invasion with overwhelming force. Planetary saturation strikes, a tactic humanity had developed during the early days of their exploration of the galaxy. Back then, humanity was often the underdog, facing off against larger, stronger, more advanced foes. So they devised a plan of attack that required very little skill or bravery. Just raw firepower. The idea was simple. Take a planet and hit it with so much firepower that nothing could survive. The problem, however, was that it took a lot of firepower. You couldn't saturate a planet unless you had access to virtually every star system in the galaxy. And you couldn't destroy a planet unless you destroyed every star it orbited. It was an extremely risky strategy that required total commitment. Once you started a planetary saturation strike, there was no turning back. So it was never used except once. In the battle for Tejeros, humanity made a show of force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. They committed every ship they had, every drone, every cruiser, every battleship, every dreadnought, everything they had. They filled the sky above Terrace, covering every inch of it. And then they struck. In the blink of an eye, the Zarkath fleet was vaporized, their colonies reduced to dust, their hive queen silenced forever. The aliens gasped in disbelief. Why so much firepower? Why destroy everything? The human reply was chillingly calm. Because half measures get people killed. We do not fight to win battles. We fight to end wars. To the galaxy, this was madness. To humans, it was simply common sense. It was the first time humanity had ever gone overkill. The months that followed were the strangest the galaxy had ever seen. Not a single empire dared to test humanity again. Borders shifted. Long dormant, treaties were signed, the balance of power realigned overnight. And all the while, humanity spread, expanding outwards from the core, pushing into the unknown. There were skirmishes, of course. Other races never truly accepted humanity's place among the stars. There were those who wished to drive us back, to force us out of the fragile peace. But they came not in overwhelming force, not with the massive fleets that had once spelled certain doom for entire worlds. They came with token navies, pathetically small compared to what had come before. And they fought with rules. They kept their distance, never striking first, always giving orders before acting, always expecting humanity to fight fair, and humanity didn't. We took the fight to them. We struck first, and we struck hard. We pushed our advantage until they broke, until they sued for peace, for mercy, for an end to hostilities. And we kept fighting until every single one of those pathetic little ships was destroyed. On the flagship of the Obsidian Fleet, an alien strategist paced his bridge, watching the battle unfold on the view screens around him. His people were dying, but he did not care. For this was no ordinary battle. This was a war of attrition, a test of wills between two vastly different species, a war that would determine whether the galaxy would be a place where all species were equal or one where only the strong survived. He had studied human reports for weeks, trying to find some flaw in their tactics, some weakness in their defenses. He had read countless dispatches from human systems, hoping to find some vulnerability he could exploit. But he found nothing. Humanity was a riddle wrapped in an enigma, a paradox cloaked in mystery. For 7 years, humanity had held off the Obsidian Fleet. 7 years of fighting against impossible odds. They had repelled invasion after invasion, breaking the mightiest armadas the galaxy had ever seen. And still they had not asked for mercy. Still, they had not surrendered. But why? Why would a species so clearly outgunned, outmanned, and outgunned, a species on the verge of annihilation, cling so desperately to life? Why wouldn't they surrender, bow before the fleet, and beg for mercy? Then it hit him, the answer, the key to understanding humanity, the reason for their tenacity, their will to survive no matter the cost. Humans do not fight fair. Fair fights are for those who can afford to lose. He slammed his fist into his console, the bridge shuddering beneath him. Of course, humans don't fight fair. They fight to win by any means necessary. It was the only explanation for what he had seen, the only answer to the riddle that was humanity. He had studied their tactics, yes, but he had never understood them. Their strategies were sound, brilliant even, but they made no sense. Why use 10 times the firepower needed? Why deploy fleets large enough to level entire sectors for a single skirmish? Why risk extinction for a chance at victory? Now he understood. Humans do not fight fair. They take what they need, and they take it at any cost. They fight to the death because death is cheaper than surrender. They destroy entire fleets because losing one ship is more shameful than losing the war. He sank into his command chair, the weight of humanity's sacrifice crushing him. They had taken such terrible losses to win such Pyrrhic victories. How many worlds had they lost? How many lives had been sacrificed for the right to exist? But most importantly, how many of those brave souls still lived, still fought, still died so that humanity could survive? How many human men and women were still out there fighting the good fight, holding the line against the darkness? He did not want to know the answers to these questions, for they were too horrible, too tragic, too damn human. But he needed to know them if he was to defeat this enemy that was unlike any other. Humans do not fight fair. Fair fights are for those who can afford to lose. The galaxy finally understood. What they called overkill was simply how humanity survived. What they called genocide was simply how we defended ourselves. What they called tyranny was simply how we governed our people. We took what we wanted, and we took it at any cost. And in doing so, we became the most feared species in the galaxy. Because to face humanity in war is to invite oblivion. To make an enemy of humanity is to court annihilation. For we fight to the death, because death is cheaper than surrender. It happened again. Just when we thought we had reached the pinnacle of our evolution, the galaxy intervened to pull us back down to its level. In the blink of an eye, we went from being masters of our own destiny to being someone else's property. When it happened the first time, we called it the Great Filter. It was the event that pushed us into the stars. The moment our species decided to unite under one banner and fight back against the tyrannical grip of the galaxy. But now, millennia later, we find ourselves on the brink once more. The galaxy is at it again, testing us, molding us to its whims, deciding our fate as if we were nothing more than clay in its hands. But let me tell you a story of how we, humanity, stood toe-to-toe with the galaxy and told it to shove it. Let's jump into the story. The galaxy had underestimated us before. It had seen our potential, yes, but it had also seen our flaws, our weaknesses. It thought it could break us, bend us to its will. And for a time, it had succeeded. But something had changed since then. We had grown. We had learned from our past mistakes and evolved. We were stronger, smarter, more resilient. This time around, the galaxy didn't just break us, it shattered us. It ripped apart the very fabric of our society, scattering our people across the cosmos like dandelion seeds in the wind. But instead of bending us, it had just made us crazy. And so the galaxy trembled, not because humanity was cruel, but because they were efficient, ruthless in logic, relentless in execution. What aliens feared most, humanity did without hesitation. Not for pride, not for glory, but for survival. Humanity became the nightmare the galaxy never saw coming. We adapted to the chaos, thrived in the vacuum of the unknown. We rebuilt, we evolved, we innovated, and in doing so, we discovered something about ourselves. We were capable of anything. This efficiency, this cold, hard logic was our superpower. We leveraged every advantage, exploited every weakness. No emotion, no morality, just pure, unadulterated pragmatism. We played the game better than anyone, outmaneuvering, outgunning, and ultimately outlasting our opponents. We struck fear into the hearts of the galaxy's inhabitants, becoming the very thing we once feared the most. This was overkill. The galaxy had not prepared for this outcome. It had not factored in our ability to adapt, to overcome. It had not counted on our sheer willpower and determination. But here we were, standing on the precipice of total victory. the galaxy at our fingertips. And yet, even in this moment of triumph, there was a sense of melancholy, a feeling of emptiness. For what was victory without honor? What was conquest without purpose? Our efficiency had brought us to this point, but it could not satisfy us. We had become the embodiment of the cold, hard logic of the universe itself, and in doing so, we had lost a part of ourselves. As we surveyed the wreckage of our victory, we knew that we had to find a way to bring back what we had lost, to rekindle the spark of humanity that had almost been extinguished. And so, with the galaxy trembling before us, we, humanity, took our first tentative steps towards rebuilding, towards rediscovering what it meant to be human. We started small, reaching out to other survivors, offering aid and comfort, trying to piece together the fragments of our shattered world. Slowly but surely, we began to heal, to rebuild, to innovate. We drew upon the strengths of our diverse peoples, the creativity, the compassion, the courage, and we began to create a new society, one that was stronger, more resilient, more compassionate than the one we had lost. The galaxy may have thought it was testing us, but it had done more than it ever imagined possible. It had broken us, yes, but in doing so, it had set us free. Free to evolve, free to grow, free to become more than we ever were before. And as the galaxy watched in awe and terror as we rose from the ashes of our own making, we, humanity, looked up at the stars and whispered, "This was overkill."